What kind of person leaves a dog at someone's door? With nothing but a note and a prayer, it was a cold, gray Tuesday in Ashland. Early November. Sarah had just gotten back from the school where she worked. The fall wind carried the smell of wet, leaves and distant chimneys. She put her bag down on the kitchen counter, boiled some water for tea. The house was quiet, just like it had been for months, since the divorce, since her son, Nathan, left for college. Sometimes she swore she could still hear the echo of footsteps running down the hall, or the jingle of the collar that used to belong to Toby, their family dog who passed the year before. She still hadn't gotten rid of his water bowl. It sat behind the trash can, dusty but untouched. Grief isn't loud. It just hangs there, in quiet things, in the empty spots. She was halfway through steeping her chamomile when she heard it. A sound outside, like nails on wood. Then, one soft whimper. She opened the front door. There, under the porch light, sat an old golden retriever, soaked to the bone. Eyes drooped with something deeper than rain. His fur was matted. He looked tired, like he walked a long way just to stop there. A red collar circled his neck. Tucked into the buckle was a small folded piece of paper, damp but still legible. She crouched, gently easing the note from under the strap. One sentence, written in trembling pen. Please don't take him to a shelter. He is a good boy. I can't take care of him anymore. Sarah stood still for a long time. Her breath caught. Not because she was afraid, but because somehow he didn't feel like a stranger. She brought him inside, toweled him off with the same worn towel she used for Toby. He didn't resist. He didn't bark. He just laid there on the mat like he belonged there. Like this wasn't the first time. She gave him a slice of turkey from the fridge. He ate it slowly, carefully, like he didn't want to take too much. When he finished, he curled up by the fireplace, the same spot Toby used to claim. Sarah sat nearby, watching the flames flicker against his fur. He didn't look up, just let out a deep sigh, one of those sighs dogs give when they finally feel safe. She tried calling shelters, vets, scanned for a microchip the next morning. Nothing came up. She posted, online, put up a few flyers, left her number. But deep down, she already knew. No one was coming. She didn't name him right away. That felt too personal, too final. But he followed her from room to room, waited by the bathroom door, rested his chin on her knee while she typed lesson plans. 3 days later, when he barked for the first time, not out of fear, but play, she smiled without meaning to and whispered, "Rusty. You look like a Rusty," and he wagged his tail like. He waited for someone to call him something kind. Sarah still searched. She told herself it was the right thing. She called every vet within 30 miles, left messages with local shelters. She even printed a few more flyers and dropped them off at the library bulletin board and gas stations. But no one claimed him. A woman did call once, thinking Rusty might be her friend's lost dog. But when Sarah sent a photo, the woman replied, no. Their dog was younger. He didn't have that look in his eyes. That look. Rusty had the eyes of someone who saw too much, been let down too many times, and still chose to sit gently on someone's porch. Sarah didn't try as hard after that. She told herself it was because she was busy, because maybe someone left him for a reason. But truthfully, part of her hoped no one would come. Rusty settled in like he always been there. The house, once still and too quiet, now held soft sounds again. The slow shuffle of dog nails on hardwood, the gentle clink of a water bowl, the occasional thud of a tail hitting the wall when she said his name. Sarah got used to leaving the back door open just a little longer so he could sniff the wind. She started buying turkey deli slices again, even though she'd sworn off processed meat after the divorce. Every morning, before she even got out of bed, she would hear the soft huff of Rusty lying against her bedroom door. Waiting, not whining, just present. The routine built itself, quietly and without force. Mornings meant coffee for her, a slow walk through the neighborhood for him. Evenings were tea and curled-up limbs near the fireplace. Some days, Sarah would talk. Not full conversations. Just little things she never said out loud before. About her day, about Nathan, about how hard the last year had been. Rusty never responded, of course. But he listened. You could tell in the way he lifted his head when her voice cracked. In the way he leaned in when she paused too long, as if to say, "I am here. Keep going." The neighbors began to notice, too. New dog misses. Leahy from 2 doors down asked one afternoon. Sarah just nodded. Sort of, she didn't want to explain. Didn't want to hand Rusty's story over like it was just another sad tale. Because it didn't feel like that. Not anymore. Some nights, Sarah would catch herself holding Rusty's face a little too long, running her fingers behind his ears just to feel the soft fur. She knew that kind of love, the kind that sneaks in slow and buries deep, the kind that doesn't ask if you are ready, just settles in and waits. And maybe that's why it hit so hard when Rusty stopped coming to the door. It was a Sunday morning. Sarah had woken early, her body used to the rhythm of letting him out, watching him sniff the wet grass before breakfast. But that morning, he didn't come. She found him lying on the rug by the window, breathing heavier than usual. She called his name. He lifted his head, wagged his tail once, then laid it back down. Her chest tightened. A familiar ache. The kind she knew when Nathan moved out, when Toby passed. When her husband said, "I just don't feel anything anymore." She took Rusty to the vet the next day. The exam room was warm, but still felt cold. Clinical. Like grief lived in the silence between beeps. Dr. Amanda, a kind-eyed woman with soft hands, listened carefully, her stethoscope pressing against Rusty's side. She did not sugarcoat it. He is old, likely 10, maybe more. His joints are stiff. Heart is a little weak. And he is showing signs of organ fatigue. Nothing sharp, yet. But it is coming. Sarah nodded slowly, biting the inside of her cheek. Could be a few months, could be a few weeks. That phrase stuck in her head all the way home. Could be. She sat on the porch that evening while Rusty lay beside her, head in her lap. The wind rustled the trees, dry leaves skittering across the steps. She thought about the note again. Please do not take him to a shelter. Now she understood. Whoever left him, maybe they were not heartless. Maybe they just could not face this part. But Sarah could. She would. She did not make a bucket list. Rusty did not need grand gestures. He needed love. Gentle, steady, unshaken. So she gave it to him. She rearranged the living room to make space for his bed by the fireplace. She cooked fresh chicken and rice, bought a soft brush and combed his fur every night until he fell asleep against her knees. She played classical music in the mornings and old jazz at night. When his legs got too weak for long walks, she would spread a blanket on the lawn and lie beside him, pointing at clouds, whispering things she never got to say to anyone else. Some days, Nathan would call, She would mention Rusty briefly, but not too much. This was not something to explain. This was something to live. It happened gently. Rusty had eaten a full meal that night. He had even wagged his tail at the sound of the kettle. Sarah sat beside him by the fire, reading a worn paperback, her hand resting on his side. She did not notice when his breathing changed. It was so slow, so soft. When she finally looked over, his eyes were closed. Peaceful, still. She pressed her face into his fur, held his collar like a lifeline, whispered, "Thank you for finding me." And for a while, she did not cry. She just sat there, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. The next morning, the house felt different. Not just empty, still. No nails on the floor. No rhythmic breathing from the living room. No tail thump when she reached for her slippers. Sarah sat at the kitchen table with both hands wrapped around a cold mug. Outside, the sky was a dull gray. Birds chirped in the distance, but even that felt too bright for the mood inside the house. She did not move much that day, or the next. Rusty's things were still where he left them. His water bowl half full, a blanket by the fireplace with a faint indent where his body had rested the night before. The leash hung quietly by the door, unused. But it was the note that called her. It had been sitting on the mantel since the day she brought him in. She had not looked at it since. Now, she picked it up, hands trembling, and read it again. "Please do not take him to a shelter. He is a good boy. I cannot take care of him any more." She folded it carefully, her thumbs brushing along the crease, and, for the first time since Rusty passed, she let herself cry. Not the quiet tears that had slipped out in the vet's office or in the dark of night, but full, shaking sobs. Because it hit her. Whoever wrote this note had loved him too, and maybe, just maybe, they had stood right where she was now. Heartbreaking, hope thinning, forced to make the hardest choice. Maybe they had no home, no money, no way forward. But they had one thing left: belief that someone else could give Rusty what they no longer could. A few days later, Sarah packed up the house, not to move away, but to clear space. She donated the older furniture, gave away boxes of clothes, and rearranged the living room completely. The blanket Rusty used to lie on stayed right by the fireplace. His collar, red, worn, and frayed, was placed in a small shadow box on the mantel, right next to the note. And then she did something she never thought she would. She wrote a letter. It was not addressed to anyone in particular. Just left, folded in the back of a small notebook she kept in the kitchen drawer. It read, "To whoever left him, I kept your promise." He never saw a shelter. He spent his last days warm, fed, and loved. And somehow, in taking care of him, he took care of me too. Thank you for trusting me. I will carry his love with me, always. Spring came slowly to the neighborhood. Grass grew thicker. The air smelled softer. And Sarah found herself smiling again, the real kind, the kind that did not feel borrowed. She would walk through the garden with coffee in hand, sometimes pausing by the lilac bush Rusty used to sniff. Sometimes she talked out loud to the wind. Just little things. How her day was going, what the neighbors were up to, how Nathan had started dating someone new. Rusty had taught her how to be present again. And that did not fade. One afternoon, a neighborhood kid walked by and saw the leash still hanging by the door. "Did you get a new dog?" Sarah shook her head gently. "No," she said, "but maybe someday." She was not rushing. The silence no longer hurt. It reminded her of him. Months passed. One rainy evening, nearly identical to the night Rusty arrived, Sarah came home and stood on the porch for a moment before unlocking the door. She looked down, half expecting to see a soaked dog curled at her feet again. But there was only an empty welcome mat, brushed clean by the wind. Still, something inside her fluttered. Not sadness this time. Gratitude. She reached into her coat pocket and ran her fingers over the worn edge of the note. She had started carrying it with her now, not for comfort, but as a reminder that every goodbye began with a chance, that love did not always arrive perfect, just in time. She opened the door. The house was warm, still quiet, but never empty again. It had been almost a year since Rusty passed. Sarah still kept the same morning routine, waking early, making coffee, sitting quietly near the fireplace. There was not much noise in the house, but the silence did not ache anymore. It felt full, like it remembered something. On her mantel, the small shadow box remained. Rusty's collar, a tuft of his golden fur she had saved after brushing him one sunny morning, and the note, faded at the edges now, but every word still legible. Visitors would sometimes ask about it, and Sarah always told the story the same way, softly, simply, with her eyes resting on that worn red collar. He was left on my porch, and somehow he became family. People often expected sadness in her voice, but she did not speak with sorrow. She spoke with reverence, because Rusty was not a loss. He was a gift, wrapped in rain and a stranger's hope. One Saturday morning, Sarah heard a knock at the door. It was a young woman, mid-20s, nervous, holding something wrapped in a towel. Behind her, a tiny mutt peeked out, all ears and shaky legs. "I am sorry to just show up," the girl said. "You do not know me, but someone told me that you help dogs." Sarah did not respond right away. Her eyes drifted to the porch floor, the same spot where Rusty had once sat, soaked and silent. She stepped forward. "I try," she said gently. The girl hesitated, then looked down at the dog in her arms. "I cannot keep him. I lost my job, my apartment. I have called shelters, but they are full. I did not know what else to do." Her voice cracked. Sarah reached out, not for the dog, but for the girl's hand. It was trembling. "Come in," she said. "Let us get him warm." They stepped inside. The dog was thin, skittish, but curious. His nose twitched toward the fireplace. Sarah knelt down and laid out Rusty's old blanket. The pup sniffed it, circled, then curled up and exhaled. The girl sat quietly on the couch, watching. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I did not want to abandon him," she whispered. "I know," Sarah said. "You did not." That evening, Sarah opened the drawer and took out the notebook where she had kept her letter. The one to Rusty's original owner. She flipped the page and began writing again. "Tonight, someone left a dog at my door, just like you did. And I said yes, just like I was supposed to." She smiled as she wrote. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. Inside, the small dog slept soundly, belly full, safe again. And in that moment, Sarah felt it. Not grief, not guilt. Continuance, because Rusty had given her more than love. He had given her purpose. A way to keep loving, even after goodbye. The little dog stayed. Not forever, just until he found a new home. A good one, But during that time, he thrived. He learned where the snacks were. He discovered the joy of belly rubs and warm laps. He waited by the door, just like Rusty used to. Sarah named him Chance, not because he was lucky, but because someone had to give him one. One evening, while dusting the mantel, Sarah took the note out of the shadow box. She looked at it for a long time. Then, for the first time, she turned it over. On the back, written in tiny, faded ink, was one final line she had never noticed. If you are reading this, thank you. I did not know where else to turn. Sarah pressed her hand to her chest, heart swelling with a quiet ache and a deeper peace. Because now she understood. Rusty was not left behind. He was left toward safety, toward love, toward someone who would hold him in his final hours and whisper, "You are home." Sarah never found out who wrote that note, and maybe she never needed to, because love, real love, does not always leave a return address. Sometimes it just leaves a dog and trusts you to do the rest. Dogs truly are the most loyal companions in our lives. What did you think of this heartwarming story? Let us know in the comments. Like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for daily emotional dog stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click here to watch the next story of love, loyalty, and the incredible bond we share with our paw-some friends.